Oh yeah, I got my teleprompter back. It makes me so happy. It's supposed to be 106 degrees outside today. And you know what I want to talk about? Christmas. No. I'm not one of those people who love to start decorating for Christmas before we even have a chance to enjoy that good old Thanksgiving turkey. Not at all. One, I hate decorating for Christmas, and frankly, I love my Thanksgiving turkey, especially if you know how to make it nice, tender, and juicy. No, the reason that I want to talk about Christmas is because in spite of my current financial comfort, I do still remember the days when it felt like my Christmas shopping was, I don't know, a life or death situation. I would look at my bank account and then I would look at the list of people that I felt like I needed to buy gifts for, and then I looked back at my bank account. Whew, yeah. Next thing you know, your girl was breaking out in a cold sweat because I knew that, baby, I was gonna be broke when it was all over. Or someone in my life was going to be highly disappointed at what they were getting that year, if they were getting anything at all. Getting tired of that life is why I started to save for Christmas way in July, because having 5 or 6 months to save was so much better than either of those alternatives. And that's why today I'm going to show you a super simple system that will help you avoid going broke over the holidays by doing a little bit of planning and saving right now. That's what we needed, sis. Hey dreamers, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Tiana Clewis, an executive pastor, money coach, and owner of a multi-million-dollar consulting firm who's made it her mission to help Christian women trapped in the 9-to-5 life overcome the money worries that are stopping them from stepping full-time into what they know is their God-given calling. And now that you know who I am and what this channel is about, I want to share something with you that's super exciting before we dive into the video. You see, as a Christian woman entrepreneur who works with Christian women entrepreneurs, do you know what I often see them struggling with? It's figuring out how to grow a business that's not only profitable, but also functions in full alignment with God's will for their life. After all, with so many people believing that being wealthy or financially successful means you must be ripping people off, it's tough to push yourself towards growth without feeling like you're doing something wrong. But sis, let me tell you, if you're truly passionate about the business you're creating, I have a secret. That business is actually part of your God-given purpose. In fact, that business is how God wants you to help grow the kingdom. Want to know what that looks like? Well, join me October 1st for the first annual Ambitious Dreamers The Pouring Conference. This epic one-day event is going to equip you with the practical and biblical strategies that you need to embrace your business as a means of financial blessing and kingdom building for yourself and others. To register for your spot at this inaugural event, head to our website at www.thepouring.life today. You don't want to miss out. All right, now that you know about the pouring, let's jump into the video. The first thing I want you to do to start planning for Christmas requires you to go back in time and look at something that's kind of scary. How much you spent last year for the Christmas holiday. I know I can practically hear the collective groans as you think about looking at those numbers. And for those of you who are still actively paying off the debt from the holidays, yeah, it's going to hurt your feelings even more. But this is a vital step to keep you from ending up back in the same situation. We need to get an accurate idea of what you usually spend on the holidays, because if we don't, we're basically just going to end up making something up. And time again, I've seen people create these super unrealistically tight Christmas budgets that they just end up throwing out the window anyway because it's not really working for them. Sound familiar? That's why in step number 1, I want you to pull out your bank statements and your credit card statements to see how much you spent last year. Now, here's where most people mess up with this. When people start talking about Christmas spending, our minds default to gifts for family and friends. But that's not all the money that we spend for Christmas. There's decorations that you buy for the home. There's money that you contribute for work things like a manager's gift or a holiday party. There's travel if your family's out of town, or if you have a college kid that needs to come home. We have our contributions to holiday meals because whoever goes to just one Christmas meal? If you like to host, there's some extra expenses around cleaning and gathering supplies and even more food because the host always seems to do most of the cooking. For my charitable folks, you're bound to do an angel tree or some sort of cause that you want to donate to. And then yes, you do have gifts on top of that. And yeah, that is a lot. And if you've been wondering why the holidays always leaves you broke, well, that's why. So we need to capture as much of that stuff as humanly possible. So scour those bank and credit card statements to find as much of that stuff as you can, because the more accurate your numbers are for last year, the easier it's going to be for you to create a reasonable plan for this year. All right, so you have the number from last year. Now what? Now we need to look at that number and make a decision on how much you're actually willing to spend this year. Now, let's be real. Looking at the number from last year probably had you feeling some type of way. For lucky few, that number is going to be no big deal and they'll just use it for this year, no problem. But that's frankly not the case for most people. When I've done an exercise like this with a client, they usually end up shaking their heads and fretting over how much money they've spent. And if that's your situation, then you have to ask yourself what really seems like a reasonable number, because this one ain't it. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with going a little slower on a goal in order to enjoy the holidays with your family and your friends. But how much are you willing to slow it down? As an example, let's say that you're planning to pay off your student loans this year, and you're going to need to pay $3,000 over the next 6 months to get that done. Cool, great. Now let's say that last year you spent $1,000 on Christmas. Well, that's the equivalent of 2 months of payments on those student loans. Are you willing to delay that goal by 2 months? Or are you only willing to delay it by 1 month, requiring you to reduce the holiday budget? The choice is yours. You simply have to be okay with the choice that you make. But that's what step number 2 is about, making a decision based on last year's spending and your goals for this year on how much you're actually willing to spend for the Christmas holiday. And hey dreamer, we've hit the halfway mark, so since you like this video, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't subscribed already, follow the channel by clicking the big red button down below. Now, let's keep going. For step number 3, we need to do some marginally more complicated math. We need to calculate how much money you need to save each month to make your number from step number 2 a reality. So take your Christmas budget and divide it by the number of months that you have left to save. Now, pay attention because figuring that part out is a little trickier than you may assume. Many people mess up here because they just like to count the months. July, August, September, October, November, December, and say, I have 6 months to save. Well, actually you don't. At this point, July is nearly over, so unless you have some extra funds left over from this month's budget, you're probably not going to be able to save anything this month. Also, if you're like me and prefer to be done shopping before the crowds start up in December, you probably do the vast majority of your shopping, by the end of November. Well, now that 6 months is actually looking more like 4. So you don't just use 6 months as your default number of months to save. Take a moment to consider if you can actually afford to save anything in the current month and what your Christmas spending timelines usually look like. So for a last minute shopper with no extra to save in July, you would land at 5 months. If your budget's $1,000, that would mean you need to set aside $200 a month just to be ready. On to step number 4, which has a part A and a part B. Part A is to check your budget to see if you have the space to make that monthly savings number work. For a person that needs to save $200 a month, and maybe it's easy as reducing, say, clothes spending and eating out by 50% each. But for someone with a bigger number like $1,000, the budget may not be able to accommodate that number, which leads you to part B. If your monthly budget can't absorb the monthly savings amount, you're going to have to either reduce your Christmas budget or create a plan to make the extra money. Now, my natural inclination is to figure out how you can make the money. You can do a garage sale, take on some overtime hours, ramp up your side business marketing to bring in more clients, take on some freelance work, hit up that DoorDash, Uber Eats life, whatever it takes. As long as it's legal and ethical, there's no shame in taking on extra work to make some additional cash for the holidays. Just be sure to pay your tithes and your taxes on the extra money. That being said, there are some people who simply can't work more to make more money, like someone who received most of their income from disability, which places limitations on your ability to work, or who has essentially maxed out their calendar with work. In those cases, reducing the Christmas budget until you reach an attainable monthly savings amount is your best financial option. Step number 5 is the step that most people actually start with, assigning budget amounts to the categories and people on your Christmas list. Think about it. When you are thinking about Christmas, what's the first thing you do? You make a list of names of folks that you want to buy gifts for. And then you either A, figure out how much you want to spend on them, or B, what you want to buy them, which then tells you how much you're going to spend on them. Then you add up the total and freak out about how much you're about to spend on Christmas before winging it with the rest of the holiday spending. Well, not this year, because we already know what we can afford to spend on the total Christmas holiday. So based on what you can afford, you need to allocate money to each of the Christmas categories: decorations, meals, travel, gifts, etc. Then once you know what you're spending on Christmas gifts, take it a step further to assign a budget amount to each person on that list. That amount will determine what you can actually buy them. For this step, the only real pro tip that I have is to assign money to the categories that you have limited control over first, like travel. You don't get to determine the price of a plane ticket, a cab, or a hotel room. You just have to accept what the companies offer, so I would allocate money to that first after doing a little bit of research. Even with meals, you have control over the menu, but not food prices, which do keep going up in this season. And if you're like the millions of people who either cannot or will not cook for the holidays, so you order the meal from a company, you don't have a lot of control over those prices either. So I would go with that next. But decorations and gifts, you have 100% control over those because you can literally forego them entirely without missing out on spending time with family and friends for the holiday. It may not be as fun to not participate in the company white elephant exchange, but you can still be in the room laughing and building connections. So that's why I recommend allocating to those amounts last. But that's it. Once you have done those 5 steps, you'll have a realistic Christmas budget that you can actually afford and a plan for saving up the money in advance so you don't have to go into debt. With all the stress that comes with the holidays, at least you know that this year, money won't be one of them. So what do you think? Are you excited to start saving for a low-stress Christmas now, or are you not ready to even think about the holidays? Believe me when I say, I can't blame you if you're not ready, but trust me, if your budget is tight or Christmas is always a money crunch, this exercise is totally worthwhile, even for the most grouchy of Scrooges. But hey, that's all I have for this week. So go ahead and pop over to www.thepouring.life to snag your seat at the first annual Ambitious Dreamers The Pouring Conference. If you're ready to truly embrace the ministry that God has placed in your business and the way God wants to bless you and others through your business, you do not want to miss out on this event. So register today. Oh, actually, before you go, don't forget to let me know that you found this video useful by hitting the thumbs up button and subscribing to the channel by clicking the big red button below. Be sure to hit the bell so that you're notified each week when I drop brand new money tips and biblical strategies to help you break through your financial barriers so you can step big, bad, and boldly into your God-given calling full time. With that, I'm going to go back to work and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.